This happened to me about a year ago. I was 25 years old during this incident. I was on my way to see my friends who lived an hour and a bit away. They moved out recently so they could live closer to their parents. I guess the loneliness really got to them. Oh well, I decided to go up there and pay them a visit since it had been a few months since I last went up there. My car had been playing up for the last few days, and to be honest, I was rethinking my decision of going. But my friends insisted me to come and told me they knew someone who owned a garage and could fix my car free of charge. So I took my chance and decided to go. However, I know better than to drive with a faulty car, so I took it to the local garage near my house. I had never been to this garage before. It looked old and smelt of strong petrol. Now, I personally love the smell of petrol, but it did not smell like the type of petrol you fill your car with. It smelt of burnt and rusty oil. It was the day I had to leave, so I quickly went round to them hoping to get what I can fixed there and then. My car is old, and the engine takes time to turn on. I keep having to twist my keys, and it made a weird screeching noise whenever I drove it. The actual driving was, however, fine. I explained these to a guy named Mike, the person who took care of my car at the garage. He told me that he would do what he can in the time frame that I gave him. It was already quite late, and I dislike driving in the dark. I mean, I don't mind it, but I would much prefer the day. It was winter as well, so it would get dark around 4 p.m. I noticed that Mike kept peeping his head from behind the car to look at me, and when I would turn back, he would look away quickly. This happened a lot while he was fixing my car. He didn't seem creepy or anything. It was just a bit weird. A few moments later, he stopped what he was doing and came up to me. He asked me questions like, where would I be going? Was I going alone? And what was my route there? These questions were very specific, but I figured it was for the purpose of seeing how my car would last on my trip. So, I naively answered him, keeping it short and sweet, and brushed a smile before looking down at my phone. He was about 6 foot tall and wore a puffer jacket with his plastic gloves. He looked around to be in his late 40s and had an intense stare. I felt intimidated, to be honest, as he just stood there in awkward silence. I see. The car will be ready in 15 minutes, he said after what seemed like hours of silence. I thanked him. I knew it was a temporary fix, but if I could there safely, then that was all I was concerned about. While he was fixing my car, I decided to head to the shops and buy some flowers and a bottle of champagne for my friends as a gift. It would take around 20 minutes to get there and come back. My car should be done by then. I returned with bright red roses in one hand and the bottle in the other. The car was indeed finished, and he opened the boot for me to unload everything. He grinned at me while I got in the driver's seat and paid him the money. "Thanks, sweetheart," he said in a raspy voice. It was around 4:30 p.m. and the sky was getting darker. I wanted to drive fast, but I had to be careful of my engine. The screeching noise was gone. I was relieved. The roads got narrower and emptier, with every corner being a sharp bend. The streetlights became few, and the only source of lights were from my car. Oh no! My heart got heavy as my car started making those noises again. It should be fine. I'm nearly there, I thought, until my car started getting slower. My foot was on the gas, but my car remained steady. "What is going on?" I said angrily. "You've got to be kidding me." I parked up and restarted the car. 3 tries later, it wouldn't turn on. 6 tries later, still no sign. I took my keys out and started banging my wheel in frustration. My car had broken down in an empty road surrounded by trees and utter darkness. I locked the doors and reached my purse to grab my phone. Great. No signal, I muttered. I knew that further down would be a convenience store and that there I would get signal. But boy, I did not want to walk out in the dark alone. I am a 5'4" girl who had a mix of athletic and petite body type. However, it was not hard for someone to just pick me up and take me away. So, I sat in car contemplating what to do. I saw a car drive by the opposite way. My face lit up with a smile, while I jumped out my car and tried to wave my arms for help. They drove right past me, as if I were not there. I rolled my eyes, and before I could get back in my car, a van drove up behind my car and stopped a few meters away from me. I looked back, in surprise, hoping whoever was there could help me out. I started walking towards the van until a man jumped out and slowly started walking towards me. It was pitch black, so I could barely see. His lights were on, but it was still dark. I started explaining my situation to him. His eyes were glued to my car, not meeting mine once. He wore a black face mask, and his hood was on. I don't know why, but I felt a bad energy from him. "I think I have my tools in my van, I'll be back," he stated while heading to the back of his van. I just stood there, but I felt strange. My heart started beating a little faster. I did not know what to do. I was desperate, and it was now 5:30 p.m. He was my only hope. It was too cold outside to walk a mile down to the shops. The man was fiddling with something. I heard some jingling like keys or metal. But he returned empty-handed, eyes still lowered, and told me he left his tools at home but offered me a ride to the store down the road. Both his hands were in his pockets, unlike before where one of them were out. His voice was deep and kind of raspy. He was talking quietly, I could barely hear him. I had to think quick. I declined and thanked him for his help. I turned to walk back to my car when I heard fast footsteps coming from behind me. I turned around and saw him running towards me with something in his hand. I screamed while I ran as fast as I could. There was no way I would make it to my car in time. I had to hide. In the pitch black, I ran into the woods, tree after tree getting deeper and deeper. His footsteps became faint. I hid behind a bush which was covered by a great oak tree. I ducked. My breathing was heavy and fast, but I had to calm down or else he would hear me. I heard his laughter and footsteps get close. He had a flashlight and was waving it all over the place. Whoever this person was going to hurt me. I remained still, barely breathing. His footsteps getting closer, heavier, and his sinister laughter following him. "Where are you, sweetheart?" I heard him say. My eyes widened in horror. I recognized that voice. It was Mike from the garage. His deep, raspy voice was easy to spot. I sat in silence, not moving while my hands covered my mouth. He was here, on the other side of the bush. One peep, and I'm done for. It must have been at least a minute, but it felt like hours until his footsteps became further fading into the distance. I waited and caught my breath. I decided to make a run for it. I had to run and pray that the convenience store was open. I whispered a prayer to myself before standing up, and without thinking, I dashed. I ran as fast as I could, not daring to stop. The wind was brushing against me after every step. It was freezing, but I refused to stop. I could feel my eyes get heavier, my legs getting weaker, but the thought of surviving kept me going. My eyes lit up when I saw the dim light ahead of me. I ran inside the store and fell on the floor, struggling to catch my breath. The store owner rushed towards me, asking if I was okay and trying to calm me down. He gave me some water and a blanket to warm up. After a few minutes, I caught my breath while trying to process what just happened. I told the store owner everything starting from the garage up until now. He was shocked to hear my story while dialing 911. 20 minutes later, the police arrived, and I felt safe going back to my car. When we arrived, the van along with Mike had disappeared. My car window had been smashed, but nothing was stolen. The police investigated everything and found a device connected to the bottom of my car. It was a tracker, and that Mike had been following me. "This is unbelievable!" I shouted. I was so angry, but there was nothing I could do. The police gave me a ride to my friend's house, as I was close by anyways, and I stayed the night there. They were just as horrified to hear the event. Mike was never to be seen after that, but the garage was still open. Apparently, there was never a guy called Mike working there in the first place. The actual manager was on break and left his garage unattended for about 30 minutes, not thinking anything could happen. Ever since then, I refuse to drive in the dark alone, and I always make sure that my car is perfectly fine before leaving to go anywhere. I bought a new car after that. Sure, I had to work twice as much, but I was so traumatized I did not care. So, as you see, you must be aware who you leave your vehicle with, as well as making sure nothing has been altered with it. There is too many cases where door handles had been laced, and devices such as Apple AirTags have been attached to strangers' cars and belongings. Please be aware, and always keep safe.